Hey guys, Techie 101 here. Alright, so we had our fun last week with, like, the greatest One Piece chapter ever, with the mural and the Harley text and the 3 ages or epochs of the One Piece world. There's basically no way in hell Oda can top that, alright? There's no way he can make 1139 better than 1138. I mean, chapter 1138 makes chapter 1044 look like chapter 305. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, One Piece fans. You know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. This chapter serves one purpose and one purpose only. It's a very short chapter, only about 13 pages. The purpose of this chapter is to reveal the identity of the mysterious individual that's been wandering around Elbaf so far, with the Casa hat and the person that is Colin's dad and Ripley's husband. Also the individual that was first revealed all the way back in chapter 631 in the cover page, having a drink with Crocus at the Twin Capes. I wonder who it's gonna be. I'm guessing Shiki, right? Because come on, right? Hey, completely unrelated question, but what is better than having one axe? Just asking you, completely unrelated question, doesn't come back to anything. What's better than one axe? Yeah, 2 axes! I gotta tell you, this is pretty terrific. Yeah! Alright, so this will be One Piece, chapter 1139, titled The Mountain Eater. There's a couple of different ways you can interpret that. We'll get into that when we get into that. All right. So we continue on with Oni Child Yamato's Golden Inari Shrine Pilgrimage. This will be volume 25. We still see who's who in his base that he has made to look like his helmet. It's not a secret base by any stretch of the imagination, but he's in there and he's the boss of the place. And 2 shadowy, silhouetted individuals have been placed in front of him, and he takes out his katana and he's approaching them, about to execute the rebels, as the caption says. Okay, so we know who's who is. The 2 shadowy individuals we don't see. However, it's very likely they are, in fact, Ulti and Page One. Going by the silhouettes, you can kind of see part of, they both have horns, and you can see part of Page One's hat. Page One wore that nice little fishing hat kind of thing, and the other one is most likely Ulti, okay? So, this is actually really fascinating what happened here, okay? After the events of Onigashima, after Kaido had been thrown into a volcano, and after the calamities were thrown in the prison, it seems like the Tobiropo managed to escape. We know Drake got away. You know, he's now at the Marine Hospital, but the other 5 Tobiropo, we assume, we don't know all of them. Like, Black Maria might be dead. She got her spine cracked by Demonio Robin, so Black Maria might be dead. But we know who's still around. Ulti and Page One still being alive. I mean, Ulti took, like, the Mazer cannon from Big Mom at, like, point blank. Page One got decked by Big Mom as well. It's actually really funny that Ulti and Page One were both taken out by Big Mom mainly. I know technically Nami was the one that delivered the coup de grace on Ulti, but I think the Mazer cannon really, brought her health down into, like, the red at that point, right? But if you're gonna say Ulti and Page One are still alive, I'm okay with that. But you know what happened? I think there's a massive power struggle now amongst the Tobiropo. Like, Kaido's gone, so, like, Sasaki is like, I'm gonna be the one in charge. I'm gonna be the new captain of the Beast Pirates. And then who's like, nah, screw you, Sasaki. I'm gonna be the new captain. And then Ulti and Page One is like, screw you both. We're gonna be the captains, right, Pei? And Page One is just like, I don't even care. Can we just leave? We're done. We don't have to be here anymore. We can leave this country and never come back. And Ulti's like, whatever. Page One and me are gonna be the kings of the country now, or whatever, right? And so I think there's a massive power struggle going on amongst the remnants of the Beast Pirates, because the Beast Pirates were a massive crew, and now who's who is captured. Ulti and Page One is about to execute them. So Yamato and Tama and Speed are most likely going to break in and are going to save them, and we're gonna see where that goes. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Today we're getting into the chapter here. We start out at the castle. We're basically following Luffy, Nami, and Zoro's group, and Road as well the entire time here. We do cut back to the banquet for a little bit. We don't get any updates on Shamrock or Gunko or what they're up to. I have an idea. I'm just bring that up really quick. Since they were flying away on Gunko's plane that she made out of arrows, an aeroplane, as it were. Strange. I've never heard of such a device. But they're flying away, and they're going to wait to summon a new member of the Gods Knight, so that makes me think, are they going to go back to this castle where the summoning circle is? Because how else are another member of the Gods Knight going to get there unless they travel to Elbaf that way, like normally? They might be heading to the castle where the Straw Hats first ended up, like where Rhodes Lego City is. Maybe they're going to go there because the Cypherpole agents might be still hanging around there, so maybe they'll find them and they'll regroup. Not really sure about where they're heading, but they're obviously not leaving Elbaf yet, okay? They're going to get some reinforcements, and then they're going to try to take the children hostage. That was their plan. We just get no updates on that in this chapter. Okay, so we're at Aurust Castle. They've been looking for the key, but it's a giant castle, and Zoro brings up, it's like, hey, the sun's beginning to set, Luffy. We've been at this for a few hours now. This place is too dang huge. I don't know if we're going to be able to find the key here, right? And so they talk about the guards that were in the place. They also don't know where the key is. So I don't know why the guards were even there. Like, later on in this chapter, we see the treasure room has already been looted. So I don't see any reason, maybe other than just the fact of, like, this is a sacred place for the giants. It's an important place. We can't have kids breaking into the Aurust Castle and, like, you know, trashing the place with their beer bottles and vape cartridges or whatever. So maybe that's why the guards are there, just to be like, hey, you're not allowed to be here. Get going, right? They don't know anything about where the treasure room is or where the key is or anything like that. There's nothing else in the castle to protect really other than that key, but we're gonna find out some stuff about the key in a moment. But yeah, it's just that they don't know where it's at, right? So Road brings up, he's like, well, the only person that probably knows where the key is Elder Jarl. And Luffy's like, oh, okay, the old man with the sword in his head. You think he would tell me where it is? Do we go back to the banquet? He's like, hey, old man Jarl, I was just really wondering real quick, do you know where the Loki's key is? Completely unrelated to anything. And then Road is like, well, of course not. He's not going to tell you. Letting Loki escape is one of the greatest crimes you could commit. But Road is going along with it, so I guess he's just, he's Nami and everything. He's just like, if Nami wants me to commit a crime that makes me a criminal from all of giant kind in general, then I guess I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I mean, like, come on, there's only a certain amount of willpower anybody has, right, okay? But yeah, as I stop for a moment, since Jarl was mentioned here, there is a theory that's abound at the moment that I've been reading into that I really like, and I kind of hope this is a thing. So, you know how Jarl has the sword in his head? It looks like King Harald's sword, in fact. Wouldn't it be interesting if, Jarl was the one that kind of instigated something, especially since King Harald was like, well, let's move towards peace and prosperity and all that kind of jazz. And Jarl, being he's the oldest giant in the world. He's back in the day, back when giants were warfaring and they headed out there and they attacked villages and stuff. What if Elder Jarl was like, I don't agree with that, Harald, attack! And then he ended up with a sword through his head, and that's messing with his memory. And now he's just like a kindly old giant, but if you take out the sword, he becomes like, he's like, my true self has been revealed, that kind of stuff, okay? Now, this is a theory that's been around. A few other YouTubers have already talked about this, but I really like that idea, so I kind of hope that happens, all right? Like, Jarl is really the one behind this the whole time, because what do we really know about Jarl? We really don't know dick about Jarl. We know that he was around during Big Mom's flashback. That's basically it. We knew he used to fight alongside Jarl, previous captain of the Giant Warrior Pirates. That's all we know. We don't know anything about the dude's morality or anything like that, right? He could totally be an asshole, and we just don't even know about it. Dude has a sword in his head. I don't trust him. Okay, anyway. So Zoro, as Rhodes says, it's a serious crime to let him go and stuff like that. Zoro is like, yeah, well, we haven't exactly agreed to let him go yet. And Luffy's like, oh, wow, Zoro, man, we've been looking through this castle all day trying to find this key, and you're still not sold on Loki. Okay, whatever. And then Nami notices the throne room, right? Or the king's chamber, okay? The red carpet that leads into the throne room. This was the room that the summoning circle was in, and Shamrock and Gunko arrived at. We've seen this room before, but now we get to see it in more in full view. So we see it as they walk in. Summoning circle's still on the floor. This is something important because I dropped my axe. This is something important because I don't think back at Egghead when the Goro say, like, you know, use the summoning jutsu, like Saturn made the summoning circles. I don't think the summoning circles remained on the ground. I think it really was like in Naruto, like Kuchiyose no jutsu, and then like the seal appears, but after the toad is summoned or whatever, the seal goes away. This seal is still here, which makes me think this is like something somebody actually like painted on the ground of the King's Chamber, okay? Either that, or maybe there's a special condition where, like, the summoning channel is kept open, so Gunko and Shamrock can return whenever they want, and in order for them to return, the summoning circle has to remain visible, and then if Gunko and Shamrock returned here and then warped back to Marijois, maybe then the summoning circle would vanish, okay? Now, Rhodes seems completely surprised by that being there, but then again, he's never been in the castle before. I would assume the guards that were in this place would have seen the King's Chamber before, so maybe it was always there and they just kind of wrote it off as just like, that's weird that a demonic summoning circle is hanging out in the King's Chamber, but whatever, we don't get paid to worry about that, you know, or maybe it just popped in and like I said, it's kept open for that reason, right? Well, anyway, as for the King's Chamber itself, the entire room is wrecked. I mean, wrecked more than the rest of the castle. The whole castle has taken a bit of a beating, but this room in itself is just absolutely destroyed. Like, it's kind of crazy this room is even still stable. All the pillars have been destroyed. They mentioned there's a giant hole in the ceiling, which we actually did see when Shamrock and Gunko appeared. There was like a stream of light coming down, so the ceiling is basically gone. We see the throne. The throne has a giant chunk missing out of the side, like, so if King Harald is like sitting on the throne and the throne is like behind him, there's like a big chunk missing, like right here, as if somebody just ran in with like a sword, right? Ran in with a sword and just like hacked him right in the neck. You know, that general area right there on the throne is destroyed, right? So they go in. Remember, Road is still like holding up Nami, Zoro, and Luffy in his hand, and he's kind of holding them up and just like, look around, everybody. And then Nami notices it and says, hey, yeah, that looks like a magic circle that I saw in a book once. And Luffy and Zoro are like, what? What do you mean magic circle? What does that mean? It's just like, it's a ritual from some country or some traditions, some cultures use them to summon demons. And they start talking all about this stuff, like Road is like, wait a minute, why would something like that be in the throne room? That's really creepy. And then they're all like, wait a minute, that can actually summon demons? Does that mean there's a demon in here? They don't actually say this in particular, but if Luffy was like, wait a minute, is there a demon in here? I could fight him, you know, like that seems like something that like both Zoro and Luffy would probably be into. Like, there a demon in here? Oh, a demon? I've never cut up a demon before. That sounds like fun. Let's do that, you know? Now, here's something. Nami mentions that in certain countries they use these summoning circles to create, like, summon demons or spirits or whatever. This is very similar to the land of, what was it called? The land of, like, poverty, the land of Hungaria. Or it's not Hungaria, it's another play on that word for Hungary, okay? And it's the place Brook got sent initially when Kuma sent him flying off from the Sabaody archipelago, okay? And you had the people there that were all wearing black cloaks and like little sheep helmets or like, you know, hats and everything, and they were gathering around the summoning circle and they were like channeling like Great Satan or whatever to arrive, and then Brook is the one that arrived. I always like that scene because it is just like they're praising like, oh yes, Great Satan, we summon thee, and then Brook shows up and just like, what? And it's like, oh, we have done it, oh yes, Dark Lord, you know? But also, Kuma was sending all the Straw Hats to different locations based off of who they were, right? So, like, he sees Nami, and he knows Nami is the navigator, so Kuma sends Nami to Weatheria, right? And he sees, I guess, Chopper, right? Chopper is a doctor, and he's like, oh, I know a place, the Torino Kingdom. This will help you grow as a doctor, and he sends Chopper off to the Torino Kingdom. But Brook was brand new to the Straw Hats at that point, and the government didn't even know Brook was a member of the crew. Kuma would have had no idea who Brook was and be like, walking, talking skeleton man, I'm gonna send you to the creepy island that worships Satan, I guess. Bam! And send him flying off, okay? So maybe that is what Nami was referring to, like that specific nation and some other cultures as well with those kind of like religious practices, okay? Now, Luffy does say, seems like this is familiar. I think I've seen something like this before. Obviously referring to the Gorosei and their summoning circles at Egghead, but a lot of crazy nonsense was going on at Egghead, so it makes sense Luffy didn't stop to like actually look and like pay close attention to the summoning circles when they were there. He was kind of more focused on dealing with the giant yokai monsters attacking them all, right? So that makes sense that he wouldn't immediately like, I know what that is, you know, like, yeah. So they hear a voice coming from somewhere in the King's Chamber. Straw Hat Luffy. And then Luffy's like, wait, what? Who is it? Demon? Are you there? Is it a demon? And Nami's like, of course not, you're an idiot. There's no demons, don't exist. It's like, I mean, yeah, I know we just fought a bunch of yokai monsters at Egghead, but those were probably Mythical Zone users. Demons? Ah, no way. Right? And Road, he kind of starts doing a sort of like chant to like calm ye spirits, calm ye lost evil spirits of the lands from beyond. We don't mean to anger ye. You know, kind of stuff. So he starts doing that, and you hear the voice continue. I've always wanted to meet you. Who are you, demon? Show yourself! Run away before we get possessed, right? And so Road turns around and starts making a break for it, which, I mean, hey, you walk into a creepy room in a creepy castle, you start hearing a creepy voice, and you don't know where it's coming from. Road is just like, I'm out! You know, and he starts running, but then the voice is like, hey, wait, no, hold on, come back! And just throws an axe. And Road stops as the axe slams into the wall in front of him and explodes the wall. And remember, he's carrying Luffy, Zoro, and Nami, so the axe hits the wall and he's just like, ah! And he like throws them all up in the air, lets them all go. Nami and Zoro go tumbling. Don't worry, Zoro grabs Nami and they land safely, and then Luffy, of course, is fine. But yeah, and then there's a moment where Road is like, oh, I'm sorry, Nami, I didn't mean to. It's like, shut up. It's like, I'm sorry, it was an axe, I was afraid. You know, just like, yeah, okay. So then we see the individual. They are sitting on one of the armrests on the throne. Not even sitting like on the cushion of the throne. Sitting on like one of King Harald's armrests. And then we get the reveal. It's the same person with the striped kimono and the casa hat. And it is revealed to be Ya-san. Or Yar-san, depending on the translations. And all I can say is, Shiki has changed a little bit since I remember him in Strong World. Okay, I think everybody knows at this point, it's not Shiki. The individual is, in fact, Scooper Gabon! It's Scooper, everybody! Oh, we've been waiting for him for a while. All right, well, hey, what are you gonna do, right? You know, you can't win them all, right? Although I will say this. Scooper Gabon originally has black hair, so in his old age, it makes sense if it went gray or silver, similar to Rayleigh. This digital-colored manga panel right here, which kind of started a lot of the problem, yeah, that's clearly blonde hair, and also we don't know if that's even the color scheme of the kimono. It might be something closer to this, you know, because I don't think Scooper Gabon right here has blonde hair. I think it's silver grayed hair out, and that's what it is, right? So if that was the situation, maybe I don't think I would have been jumping on the Shiki train as much. But no, it's Scooper, resident of Elbaf, a human, former pirate, Ya-san. Okay, and so we're gonna learn without any shadow of a doubt it is Scooper Gabon by the end of the chapter, but he's introducing himself with Ya-san at the moment, right? So he's hanging out here. Road knows who he is. Road is immediately like, oh, Ya-san, what are you doing here? And he's just like, well, I sensed a strange haki coming from the castle. Thought I would come in, check it out, see what was going on, what the party was. But anyway, it's gone now, although I found you guys, you know? All right. So actually, this is kind of cool because Gunko mentioned in just the last chapter that they are able to kind of mask their presence a bit. They're able to make it so they can't be detected. But here, Scooper Gabon, and yes, I'm going to keep calling him Scooper because I find it funny. But Scooper is saying, hey, I sense that hockey even maybe when they were trying to obscure it, okay? Now that makes sense given the fact that we're going with a parallel here. Luffy is obviously the parallel to Roger, King of the Pirates. Zoro is obviously the parallel to Silver's Rayleigh, you know, the swordsman. And then, of course, you have Scooper Gabon, who is the left arm of the Pirate King. The third strongest, we're going Gold Roger, Silver's Rayleigh, and then Scooper Copper Gabon. It would be bronze, I guess, but, you know, you take some copper, you take some tin, you have level 3 smithing, or no, it's level 1 smithing. Sorry, it's been a while since I played RuneScape. Yeah, you do that on, like, Tutorial Island. You throw all that together. Yeah, there's still, yeah, is there still Tutorial Island? Is there still Tutorial Island in RuneScape? Oh, back in my day, we played 2007 Scape. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, yeah, you can make bronze out of copper, so that's the whole idea. Right, okay? Well, anyway, he's the parallel to Sanji, and Sanji's high spec is observation hockey, so maybe Scopper's is the same thing, right? It would make sense to me, right? So he says, yeah, I was looking for the people that were hanging out here, that were invading, but I can't find them. Instead, I find you instead. I've heard the rumors, Straw Hat Luffy. You took down Kaido, didn't you? Ah, that brings back memories. I remember Wano. I'd like to go back there someday, you know? So he's reminiscing about the times he spent on Roger's crew. Little bit about Scopper's appearance. So he has a beard now, a mustache and beard combo. I'm kind of working on mine. It's not quite on Scopper's level yet. He still has the same glasses he used to wear back in his youth. He's got an extra scar on his forehead, and it looks like he has a mark that kind of looks like a flame. Man marked by flames contender. Let's just add Scopper. I think Scopper was always included on that list, but let's include him now, you know, officially anyway, right? He could be there. He's wearing a pretty cool Hawaiian shirt. He's got like a black like wristband kind of thing he's wearing, and then he's got the striped kimono, and he's got the casa hat. All right, so there you go. And yeah, from what we're going to find out in a minute, he's giving off a little bit of like Master Roshi vibes, just way less problematic than Master Roshi. But you're going to see in a second, okay? But yeah, he's been living on Elbaf for a long time, and Road knows about him, and kind of goes on to explain to Luffy and Nami and Zoro, like, hey, you've went to the school and you met Ripley, right? Well, this is Ripley's husband, Yaw-san. He's also the father of Colin, you know? So that connects the dots there and everything there. And then Luffy's like, oh yeah, you're the dad of the little big guy, and referring to Colin. And he's like, oh yeah, little big guy. Oh, that's funny. Yes, indeed. You met Ripley and Colin. Oh yeah. See, he inherited a lot of the giant blood from his mom's side of the family. So even as a child, he was too big for me to carry. Anyway, we find out some stuff about their family dynamic. Colin is 20 years old and Ripley is 80 years old. Okay, now we don't know how old Scopper is. I don't think we ever got the official age for him, but he would be right around the same ballpark as Rayleigh. Rayleigh is 78 right now. Garp is also 78. Like, that generation is all, like, in their late 70s at the moment. Roger would have also been in his late 70s. Would he still be alive? That kind of stuff. So, yeah, he's in his late 70s. I'd say 76 to 78 would probably put him in the right ballpark there. And he does especially mention that Ripley is older than him, and we already learned about that. Now, this is a little bit of a thing with translations, because originally the translation that I read about Ripley talking about her husband, she mentioned, oh, my husband is way younger than me. There's a huge age gap, and that's why he doesn't want to officially get married, because it'd be a little strange. You know, I'm a giant, he's a human, that kind of stuff. So the age gap is really not that big. The main issue Ripley was talking about there, and Scopper brings it up as well here, is that as a human, he's going to age faster. So he's like in his late 70s, and he looks like he's in his late 70s. He could still throw down a scrap, let me tell you. But he's in like his late 70s. He's got gray hair, he's got wrinkles, he's an old man, right? Ripley, meanwhile, is 80, but, you know, she still looks like she's in her 20s because she's a giant, right? Now, also, I assumed Ripley was a little older than she originally was. I thought Ripley was like in the same generation as around Dory and Broggy's age, because she was mentioning like, oh, I was part of like the last generation of warriors on the island, okay? But no, she is 80 years old, which puts her right around the same age as Hyruden. Hyruden's 81, so, you know, she's only a year younger than Hyruden. Girth is 75, so she's a little older than Girth. And then Goldberg and Road are both 63. So that general generation, I suppose, of Elbaf was the last warrior generation, okay? So you had Dory and Broggy and Oimo and Kashi's generation, right? They're all around the same age. And they were the giant warrior pirates, okay? They were captured 100 years ago, but they were, you know, giant warrior pirates even a little bit before, like earlier than 100 years, or later than 100 years ago, right? Then there was the next generation that was Hyruden and Gerd's generation. Goldberg and Road would probably be included in that as well. And they are the new giant warrior pirates right now. And then Ripley was also part of that generation. And now you have the generation right now that are growing up, the children of Elbaf, that are going to the Walrus School, and they are not going to be warriors. They don't want to fight. They don't want peace and everything like that, right? And so that's like the basic generational gaps there of Elbaf, okay? So yeah, that's about right. If we're going with the logic of like dividing the age by 3, Ripley is 80 years old, so divided by 3, she would be, okay, math is fun, 26, 27, somewhere around there. Colin would be around 6 or 7, once again, you know, he's an elementary school student, basically. And Scopper immediately after explaining this and the dynamics of his family say, marrying a giant isn't worth it. After all, I'm the only one aging. So this was the main deal of why they didn't want to make their marriage official, because, you know, it would be, you know, like marriage is strange at that point because it's like, I'm going to die, I'm going to get way older and die before you. So it's more of like a common law kind of thing, right? Nami is a little bit surprised by that. She's like, oh, indeed, yes, you're married to a giant and you had a child with a giant. Wow, someone, that can happen. And then Scopper jumps down from the throne and he's like, love is freedom. Historically, many hybrid races have existed. We had the Buccaneers, the Dosundadas, the Long-Limbs, and the Wotans. All right, so throwing out a lot of information there. That's what I love about Oda, you know. He remembered the Wotans. I'm so happy. The Wotans, that's Big Pan. Big Pan was a Wotan as a member of Foxy's crew. He is the only canon member of the Wotans, though, right? The only other member is a dude that showed up during 3D2Y, I think as a member of Burn D World's crew. Sebastian, I think his name was also mentioned to be a Wotan. But like, you know, other than that, there's only one other example in the entire story. You think that was something that happened way back, like 800 chapters ago. You think Oda might have forgotten about it, but no, he didn't. Either that or Oda checks the wiki, which I'm pretty damn sure he does, actually. So at any rate, we learn about some other hybrid races in the One Piece world. We learn, and also the fact that he's bringing this up right now, this is going to be an important thing we're going to learn more about as we go through Elbaf, okay? It's not all just about murals and everything. It's also learning about the people that exist in the One Piece world, right? So Buccaneers are the first one he mentions, okay? Now, Buccaneers are a little unique here because it's not like a half-human, half-giant is a Buccaneer. Maybe they're considered that, in which case Colin would have been a Buccaneer. But remember, Kumo was mentioned to be one, and his dad was also one, okay? But his dad was not a giant. Clap was not a giant, you know, getting together with a human, and then Kumo was born, okay? The idea is that, and Ivankov mentioned, Buccaneers have giant blood in them from, like, generations back, okay? And that might also explain, like, why Whitebeard was, like, bigger and stronger than, like, a normal human, okay? You know, anybody in this world that's, like, you know, like 7, 8, 9 meters tall, not quite big enough to be a giant, but certainly way taller than any average human, or even the tallest of humans, right? That might account for that, like having giant blood in them, okay? Then he mentions Dosundadas. We have no idea what these are. No clue what the Dosundadas are. Maybe a hybrid of the like the dwarves or like the tontatas or something. I'm not really sure though. I went through and like the Japanese names of all the different races and like tribes in One Piece to try to find one that looked similar. There's also the mushroom people that get brought up like one time in Big Mom's like library and stuff. So maybe it has something to do with that. But yeah, we just do not know what those sundadas are. And also remember, like, I can't read Japanese either, so maybe, and I don't have access to, like, the original Japanese version of this, so maybe there's a clue in, like, I don't know if kanji is being used or it's all written in katakana or something. Not really sure on that one, but I don't think it's very obvious what Donsandadas are. I know Dosen was a member of the new Fishman Pirates, you know, he was the one with the giant hammer that hits things, but I don't think he's related to this. I don't think Dosen was a Dosandada. Okay. Then we have long-limbed humans. All right, this is somebody we actually did see in Big Mom's prison library. A long-limbed human, a hybrid, a half long arm, half long legged, okay? Why is that important? Well, I should bring up that during IDEO and Bluegilly's cover story that we had, it covered the feud that exists between the long arm and long leg tribes, and this feud has apparently been going on for 1,000 years. This predates the Void Century of how long the long arms and long legs have been fighting one another. So I'm thinking every now and then you get like the Romeo and Juliet kind of situation. You know, the Capulets and the Montagues, I think, were the families from Romeo and Juliet. Every now and then it's like a long-armed tribe member falls in love with a long-legged tribe member. I mean, can you blame him? And he's just like, I have fallen in love with long-legged Juliet, father. I must run off to her. No, son. How dare you? No, her arms are entirely too short and her legs are too long. He's like, father, I am in love. And he runs off and they meet each other on the beach or something romantic or some shit. And they get married and they go off together, and their child is a long-limbed person with long arms and long legs. There you go. Okay. And that child would later go on to be captured by Big Mom and thrown in a book. Not great. But anyway, then we have Wotons. Wotons are half fishmen and half giant. There you go. And we, like I said, we've seen Big Pan before. That's what he was, okay? Scopper goes on to say that hybrid races struggle to survive in this world, but in every era, there have always been those that know how to adapt, okay? And he's referring to, like, the crazy amount of, like, racism and prejudice that exists in the One Piece world, okay? So, you know, there's already, like, people that are prejudiced against Fishman. If you come out and say, oh, I'm half Fishman, half long arm tribe member, or half snake neck or whatever, then, you know, it's even more prejudice on you there. But yeah, it really just goes to show right here that it doesn't matter who you are. You can have children with anybody else in the One Piece world. It doesn't matter if you're a human, if you're a giant, fishman, merfolk, long arm, long leg, the mushroom people, mink, tontata, it doesn't matter, okay? So that's a fascinating piece of lore that we've learned here, right? And then Zoro goes on to clarify, like, okay, that's all well and good. Yeah, you got together with a giant. That's awesome. Who are you? And then Scopper kind of strikes a pose like, I am the missionary of love. And then Luffy's just like, yeah, this guy seems like kind of how Sanji's gonna be when he becomes an old man. And I'm like, yeah, I could kind of see that, right? You could kind of feel like the little bit of Master Roshi vibes just dialed down quite a bit. But he's just like, he's an old dude, he's the missionary of love, he got together with a giant, and he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt, you know? So it's definitely there, right? So Luffy goes up and he's like, oh, okay, that's great, old man. Okay. Hey, I'm looking for a key to Loki's handcuffs. Do you know where that's at? And then, you know, Road is like, oh, don't ask so casually. I can't really stress this enough. This is a massive crime you are committing right now. You cannot just go around and randomly say this to people. And Luffy's like, oh, right. Yeah, sorry, old man. Just forget about it. I didn't mean anything. We're just going to get going. And then Scopper is like, oh, you're looking for Loki's cuffs, are you? Interesting. All right. You know, I love it when trouble is caused, especially when it's not involving me. I'm not the one causing it. Yeah, let's go find the key and release Loki. So, dude, Scopper's an old man. He's retired. He's not getting up into any crazy adventures anymore, but you get the impression he wants to, right? He's remembering the fires of his youth. He's talking about all the adventures he did. Like, he's like, oh, man, I want to go back to Wano again. Man, if I could go back 50 years, you know, back to my younger years, back when I was in my 20s, oh, man, I could go for another journey around Wano again. He kind of wants to go back to those, like, halcyon days, right? That's what he wants to do, right? And so Luffy's showing up here, and Luffy already, just like how Rayleigh mentioned it, like, Rayleigh is like, yeah, you kind of remind me of Captain Roger, and Scopper's gonna see the same thing here in a moment, just like, yeah, you remind me a lot of Roger, and the crazy shenanigans Roger got up into, you can only imagine, right? So he sees Luffy like, hey, do you know where the key is for me to free that giant Loki? Scopper's like, alright, Loki's extraordinarily dangerous, could destroy all of Elbaf, maybe even the entire world, and the only person able to stop him was Shanks in all of known history. But if he was freed, that would cause some exciting crap to happen. That's kind of what's going through his mind right now. You gotta feel that, right? So, he's not going to immediately just give the key to Luffy, right? He's not just going to immediately, you know what, I have the key right here in my pocket, here you go. It's not going to be that simple, right? And Nami is just like, you know, that's a terrible logic to have. Like, I don't care if there's trouble as long as I'm not the one causing it. And then Nami's like, that's awful, right? It's like, okay. But anyway, he goes on to say, okay, Luffy, do you know what kind of man Loki is? Like, really? You know, what happens if, worst case scenario, you let Loki go and he goes on a rampage? And Luffy is, he responds the way you would imagine Luffy responds. I'll beat him up and lock him up again. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, that's how it goes. And then Scopper's like, okay. The only person that was ever able to stop Loki's rampage was Shanks. No one else has ever been able to do it. And you're saying you can do it. You don't even know what kind of power this guy has. You don't know what devil fruit he has, how much damage there'll be. Luffy stops at this point, just turns around and just like, all right, well, thank you. Let's go look for the key elsewhere, guys. Man, this old man just does not know when to shut up. So, you know, he's actually kind of amenable to you, Luffy. He's actually kind of being like, all right, tell you what. I will give you the key. You just understand that this is a dangerous, yeah, whatever, old man, bye. It's like, oh, no, okay, hold on. Okay, Road, move the throne. There's a secret passageway behind the throne. Move it, please. And just like, all right. She's like, okay, it doesn't matter. And Zoro's like, this is a waste of time. And Nami is just like, hey, guys, he's warning you about stuff. Shouldn't you at least kind of pay attention? Oh, man. And Scopper is reminiscing about Roger and Rayleigh. There was a moment where Rayleigh and Scopper were kind of putting their feet down about something Roger wanted to do. Roger probably wanted to do something ridiculous. He's just like, Yorg me hearties! Let us go over there and climb the giant mountain and fight this huge eagle on top of it. Sounds like fun, right? And then probably Rayleigh and Scopper were like, dude, would you stop for 5 seconds and think about the shit that you want to do before you do it? And Roger was just like, oh, you want to stop me? Then fight me. And Scopper is just like, oh, damn it, think about the risks, Roger, the risks. And then he kind of grins, you know, Scopper in the present, because he's like, yeah, I remember those days. All right, screw it. Yeah, Road, move the throne. I have an idea. We'll get this going. All right. So, Road moves the throne, and the treasure room is revealed. Now we cut back to the banquet very briefly, okay? Where we have Oimo and Kashi, and I'm really glad it's Oimo and Kashi. Oda could have just made it Jarl or Dorian Bragi, but I'm glad it's Oimo and Kashi, because they're still around too, right? Well, anyway, they're talking to Usopp about the Pirate King's crew and everything, and he's talking about how, yeah, there's actually a member of Roger's crew that lives on Elbaf, and they're like, whoa, really? Like, yeah. He's the second other person that was talked about of strength in Roger's crew, aside from Roger himself and the other person, which would have been Rayleigh. So there's the top 3 of the crew, the monster trio of the Roger pirates, as it were, right? So obviously Usopp already knows about Rayleigh, so he's like, wait a minute, there was somebody other than Rayleigh that was also, like, as strong? It's like, yep, they were all basically in the same class. I don't know if that also is kind of talking about how, like, Roger, Rayleigh, and Scopper were all, like, equal keel, but they were all crazy powerful, right? Obviously you want to say, obviously you want to say Roger was the strongest because he's the king of the pirates, but Rayleigh and Scopper in their prime might have not have been far behind, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a Luffy versus Zoro situation, or a, Roger versus Rayleigh type situation, kind of the same deal, right? So, Oimo starts telling them a story. He tells them a story about how at one point Roger had to be taken to a hospital deep in the mountains. So Scopper took him to this place because of his illness. However, I guess some rival pirate cruiser or whatever found out that Roger was in this hospital, and they surrounded the entire mountain. Like the whole hospital, the whole mountain was swarming by enemy pirates. And Scopper Gabon, by himself with just his 2 axes, walked out of that hospital and was just like, all right, who wants some? And then he just started a massacre, an absolute slaughter fest, you know, just going nuts with it, just hacking apart body after body to the point where not only was there not a single enemy pirate left on that mountain, there wasn't even a single tree left on that mountain. Every tree was hacked apart by Scopper's mighty axes. By the way, an axe is an underrated weapon. Can you think of any other anime character that uses like a hand axe like this? I'm not talking about some fancy pantsy axe like, like Divine Axe Rita or something from Seven Deadly Sins. I'm talking about a character that just pulls out an everyday, ordinary hand axe and just starts hacking people apart like that. Who else does that other than Scopper Gabon, right? I don't know, like Jason does a couple of times, but he's not an anime character, although I feel like he should be. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's just not a weapon you see very often, other than lumberjacks. I wouldn't even say Sentomaru even counts. Sentomaru has, like, that giant, like, great axe kind of deal. Now, I'm talking about just hand axes. You know, the hand axe, underappreciated weapon, I would say, right? So, yeah, and Usopp's like, wait, what? He hacked an entire armada of pirates and a whole mountain apart with just 2 axes? I was like, oh yeah, that's why he got the name Mountain Eater. It's also because he married Ripley. That's another reason too, you know, because, yeah. But anyway, yeah, the Mountain Eater, and then Jinbei even kind of says, like, yeah, it's a well-known story. Yeah, that story checks out. So Jinbei had heard that story before. Usopp didn't. Brook and Sanji are also there. They might have not have heard the story before, but Jinbei certainly has. And they say, this man was the left hand of the Pirate King, standing side by side with Silver's Rayleigh, the Dark King, and the Pirate King, Goldie Roger, okay? Also, now that I think about it, Mountain Eater is a really cool epithet. Don't get me wrong. It's a cool title to have, but we have Pirate King Goldie Roger, then we have the Dark King Silver's Rayleigh, and then we have Mountain Eater Scopper Gabon. I feel like Mountain King might worked a little better there, you know what I mean? You know, you have the Pirate King, the Dark King, and the Mountain King. That would be really cool, but Mountain Eater works a lot well too. So that was just Oimo and Kashi kind of giving us the story of like, yeah, this is Scopper Gabon. It's Scooper Gabon. All right. Final double-page spread of the chapter. The treasure chamber is unlocked. They're going down there. Nami is obviously like, oh my god, treasure, I'm gonna find so much treasure. Thank you so much, this is great. They also ask him like, hey, Scopper, how do you even know this is down here? And he's just like, oh, well, you know, exploration is a bit of my hobby. I like exploring large, cavernous locations, if you catch my drift. We get it, Scopper. You boinked a giant. Good job. Do you want a cookie? I'm never not bringing that up. You know, like, that's the kind of thing you just kind of bring up in every single conversation. I think Scopper might mention that every time he meets anybody. By the way, have you met my wife? She's a giant. It's like, okay, that's, yeah, good for you, man. Yeah, it is. It's like, okay, all right. Anyway, they go into the treasure room, and it turns out all of the treasure chests are gone. They have been emptied. This whole place has been looted dry, pretty much. And Nami is immediately freaking out, like, you liar, you said there was treasure. And Scopper's like, hey, don't blame me. This place has been abandoned for years. Don't you think that some other thieves would have come in here and robbed the place by now? It's like, yeah, I guess, but you're getting our hopes up. That sucks, dude. All right, so King Harald was killed 14 years ago, all right? That was when that took place. So I guess, and then Loki ran away and then was locked up 8 years after that, 6 years from the present. Okay, great. So, yeah, I guess after King Harald was killed and, Loki left, I guess the castle was abandoned and random thieves just came in and stole stuff. But then also, the only thing in the treasure room is the key to Loki's chains, is in this room, all right? And Scopper specifically mentions that this is the only thing that the thieves even didn't take. You understand, right? Even the world's worst villains would not desire the liberation of Loki's. I guess after Loki came back 8 years later and was chained to the tree, Shanks or Scopper himself or Jarl or somebody took the key and tossed it in the treasure room here behind the throne. The guards didn't know it was back here. They didn't even really know where the treasure room even was. Either that or they were just really good at keeping their lips sealed. So that might also be a thing as well. Yeah, this place has been robbed and like the key has been there and it's like, yeah, nobody's taken it because nobody wants to free Loki, right? That's how dangerous he is, right? So Scopper takes off his Casa hat, he takes off his kimono, and he stands up there next to the key. And remember, the key is a giant key. So it's about the size of like a giant axe, basically. And he picks up the key as Oimo and Kashi are going over everything back at the banquet. Like, he's lived in Elbaf for 20 years now. He's the left arm of the Pirate King. He's so powerful. And he picks up the key and he's like, hey, Luffy, try to steal this key from me. If you want it, you gotta fight me. And then that's the end of the chapter, and we do indeed have a break next week, which makes sense given the fact, we had 4 chapters in a row. 5 was a little bit too much, all right? I think Oda deserves a break after this one. But, like, my God, like I said, not as good as 1138 because it's crazy world-building stuff there. But we learned a lot. We learned about Scopper. We learned he was the individual that was having the drink with Rayleigh. Having the drink with Crocus. Oh, he probably had drinks with Rayleigh before. And he's been living on Elbaf, and, yeah, he boinked a giant, and he has a son. There you go. He's a family man. That's Scopper, okay? And at the very end, he's just like, hey, Luffy, you want this key? Fight me. I am really excited for this, because this is a perfect chance, because this never happened with Rayleigh. Rayleigh didn't walk out of the auction house and was like, hey, Luffy, I wanted to meet you. Glug, glug, glug. Fight me. I'll coat your ship if you fight me. It was nothing like that. No, this is kind of dangerous. Scopper acknowledges, like, okay, Luffy, put your money where your mouth is. You said that if Loki rampages, you would be strong enough to stop him. All right? Fight me then, and I'll give you the key. Let's go. Now, I'm not going to say Luffy's just going to beat up an old man for a key, but Luffy's going to try to beat up this old man for a key. Now, here's also, Luffy has really good hockey, and he has Gear 5th. You know what Scooper Gabon has, though? He's got experience. He's got experience out the wazoo. He has trained for years and years in the art of endurance. And that is just being married to Ripley. So you know that on top of that, his combat skills are also insane. His hockey, his observation, his armament. This is a member of Roger's crew. He might be in better shape than Rayleigh. Maybe, like, Rayleigh's 78, he doesn't have any diseases like random old person disease like Whitebeard did, but, he mentioned, I don't know if I could take Blackbeard. Maybe Scopper is a little younger. Maybe Scopper is a vibrant and virile, well, we know that, 75-year-old or something like that. He's like, yeah, I could take you. Maybe something like that, right? Okay. I don't think it's going to be a fight to the death or anything so dramatic like that, but we're going to see Luffy try out some stuff. Luffy's going to be like, I don't want to fight you, old man, and Scopper's like, you think you're going to lose? And then Luffy's like, okay, let's go. And Luffy's going to probably try to use, like, Gear 3rd, Gear 4th first. Scopper's going to dodge that shit, no problem, I guarantee it, especially if we're doing, like, okay, it really should be Sanji fighting him right now, but Sanji's not present. Wouldn't it be funny if it was like, hey, fight me for the key? It's like, okay, Nami, you're up. You're mad there's no treasure down here. You want to beat him up, right? And Nami's like, what? Huh? Me? Okay, fine. Let's go, Zeus. Nami's the one that fights Scopper. Now, it should be Sanji, but what are you going to do? But yeah, no, Luffy's gonna bust out some of his, like, strongest moves. He's gonna do, like, you know, Kong gun and stuff. I think Scopper's gonna dodge that no problem, or he's gonna deflect them through the ceiling or something. And then Luffy's gonna jump to Gear 5. And in Gear 5 even, I think Scopper's gonna be able to keep up with him. And maybe Luffy's gonna be, like, getting really serious in Gear 5, and he finally manages to land, like, a solid hit on Scopper. And he's like, okay, fine. Here, take the key. You could do it, but man, you know, you got to work a little bit better on your right hook, or, you know, people are going to fool you and stuff like Luffy still has a lot to learn. Let's not forget that, all right? Just because Luffy's an awakened user and he's got some haki and stuff, that doesn't mean he's at the peak of his power, you know? He can still be maybe manipulated really easily and stuff like that, and, you know, Scopper's going to prove that. Scopper's going to, like, show Luffy, I think, all of his weaknesses that he still currently has, all right? And I'm really excited to see where that's going. But yeah, short chapter, but sets up what we need to have. You know, we have Scopper there now, and, you know, he's gonna defeat Scopper. Like, Luffy's gonna, like, eventually best him. He's gonna get the key, and that's gonna continue on where we were at. Don't know what's up with Shamrock or Gunko. Maybe Shamrock and Gunko show back up. Well, after the fight is over, they go back up to the throne room, and they're there, or something like that, and then they have a fight happening there, and then Scopper can join in on the fight. I hope Scopper doesn't die. I hope they don't do the thing that's a trope where, like, you know, I'm the really badass old guy, and then you have one really cool fight with him, and then Shamrock, like, cuts him in half or something. Like, your era is over, old man. No! Tell my wife I love her. By the way, totally got together with a giant. I want that on my tombstone. I hope that doesn't happen. Anyway, that's the video. That's the review. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for all of the new subscribers and all of the support and everything from the last review. That really helped me out a lot. Wanted to say I really appreciate that. Yeah, 2-week break, but there's still so much to discuss. Thanks for watching. This will be Techie 101, signing out.